Welcome to the Spoiler Zone. This week on the Spoiler Zone, I take a look at Drive. I'm also going to comment a little bit about some independent films. Stick around, you may just learn something. Spoilers! So Drive. I like this movie very, very much. Not a lot to complain about, but I do have to maybe chime in on some things that I sort of disagreed with. The movie is called Drive. Thing that's happening very seldom in this movie is driving, okay? So some viewers may feel a little bit tricked to say that, you know, even the promotional stuff is showing the car action to some degree. You don't see these James Bond stunts, but you see a Mustang swooping around the corner. You get a sense that there's going to be car chases. There's like, to some degree, there's about 1.5 car chases. One of them, being from the first-person view, I don't know if you can even say they filmed a car chase here. And it is interesting in the way that's shot, and I'm not complaining about it at all. The other one's more conventional, and that involves, after the pawn shop robbery, they've got this Mustang careening around. It's got the 5.0 with the 400-something horsepower, you know, the new GT. And they're being chased by this Chrysler 300C, which I'd have to hope is an SRT because they're not fast enough to keep up with this Mustang. That thing's going down. I mean, that's sort of there to be your action for this rather minimalist approach to an action film. So there's not a lot of driving. There's a ton of violence. Boom, shotgun to the side of the head for the chick from Mad Men. I mean, that really caught me off guard. I mean, even when the first guy gets shot, you're thinking, you know, he got shot through the chest, rather movie style, modern way. I mean, it's not quite like a 1950s movie, but it wasn't super bloody. And then all of a sudden, there's a bloodbath in this motel room. There's a bloodbath in the freaking elevator after the driver guy gets done making out with his girlfriend. So the movie shifts radically. It starts out with this Michael Mann look. It looks very much like Thief from like 1980. If you haven't seen that, check it out. It's basically the same movie. You replace Safecracker with Wheelman and you have the same formula. You've got, I mean, it even comes down to trying to off the big bad at the end. So it's a throwback kind of movie. I'm calling it a neo new wave 80s sort of flick with this sort of noir qualities, but not in a neo-noir sort of way. It's living in its own kind of time, in a strange sort of Batman sort of thing going down here. You know, like the '89 Batman film, and even afterwards up to the point of Batman and Robin. They've got these like 1940s looking cars, but they also have modern technology. Well, you've got a driver here with this jacket that you don't see past 1987, and this music that, though modern, is benefiting a lot from synth of the 80s. And all these tones and neon lights and things like this, it's screaming retro. And then it becomes very violent and gets into this sort of Stanley Kubrick, The Shining kind of thing, with the freaky nature of the violence going down. You know, I don't have a lot to complain about here. I think the violence was maybe a little overdone. If for a movie called Drive, I would maybe like to see one more driving sequence. And I'm reading a few things here that people think that the driver was like maybe autistic, which would be really cool. I would have to give it major props for having a secretly autistic hero in the movie. Unfortunately, that's really not the case, and I give you Exhibit A, okay? When the driver is talking to his boss, okay, the guy who sets up all these deals, and he works at his garage. So he's the boss. He flips out on him, tells him he's got to get out of town immediately. He's doing all these he's showing a lot of mannerisms, he's throwing the arms around, being very human for this like one scene. Other than that, he's this stoic ultimate badass. And because of that one scene, I'm going to say that this autistic thing is bull. I also think that the ending where I've never seen a blink register such emotions with me. I was tearing up when he just got stabbed by crazy Albert Einstein. And yeah, that's actually Albert Brooks' actual name, for those of you who don't know. So Albert Einstein stabs him, he stabs him back, he's down, gives him the money anyways, although I suppose maybe more people in his chain of command are going to be looking for it. He probably didn't really have to do that. But I'm saying this is really powerful because he's stabbed and we're assuming he's going to die. He gets into the car and he appears to be dead. He's still. And you're like, oh man, the driver died. You know, he didn't even have a name. We don't know much about him, but we care for him. He's our dude. And then he blinks and I'm like, what? And he just starts driving off. And then he's sort of like what is being brought up in the poster. It's like some heroes are real or something. There's like this tagline about heroes. And I'm like, well, what really makes this guy much of a hero? He's a wheelman for thieves and whatever. And then he's got this mythical sort of status the way he goes off into the sunset. And it also seems unfortunate he doesn't return to the Carey Mulligan character because he sort of wanted them to get together. I like the movie a lot. I give it 3.5 out of 4 stars. I also want to talk a little bit about independent films, wrapping things up with the Tallgrass Film Festival that I helped program. We're going to be putting that on in late October. There was a documentary that I watched when we last had a little screening Saturday, and it had the production quality of something that just was not going to get in. And it was about Bram Stoker, the guy who wrote Dracula, and the credits were awful. They were like something out of Windows Movie Maker. And I'll tell you this much. If you're serious about getting your documentary into a film festival, at the very least, if you don't know how to edit it, and the poor guy who made this, he did like everything. He wrote, directed, everything. That's why there was like no credits. I mean, there was like hardly anything to credit there. You've got to find someone to edit your movie. And we just watched a more compelling, though I didn't really much care all that much for it, documentary about alternative energy, mainly E85 ethanol. Not going to say the title of it, but the guy who made it made a very famous documentary along the same lines just a couple years back. And he was even on this night show promoting it, and I did not like the way he came up with his big argument because he did not frame this correctly. He was saying things like, well, here's how we're going to travel in America in the future. We're going to do like 30% public transportation. Another 30% can be biofuel. And I'm thinking, so what does public transportation run on? Imagination? So, you know what? The guy doesn't have everything all there. And this newer documentary was a little bit cleaner with in regard to the way it was researched. You know, maybe he made all his money on the first one. He had a better staff here. He goes against a lot of the things he said. But mainly, you've got a documentary and you've got to try to keep people awake. They don't have a narrative to follow, so you have to give them something. There's got to be visuals. There's got to be a lot of cuts, animation, Adobe After Effects titles left and right. There has to be several coverage. You can't just give an interview with one person in one take, the way I saw in this Bram Stoker documentary. You can't come up with these lame titles and bare bones editing and really seriously expect to get into a film festival. And that's all I've got to say about that.